Welcome back. You're listening to Behind the Mind Radio Show on We Act Radio 1480 AM, powered by Ethical Electric, and that's one of the singles off of the Expat.
Yes, that's called Echo.
Echo. I like that beat.
Thank you.
Oh, it sounds really good. It definitely has that world music sound, kind of a little bit of reggae, but
right, and a little Bollywood.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that sound, you would think it's a sample, but it was actually done live on a guitar.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the guy just made this cool boom, 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 just with his own fingers. It was really neat.
Wow. Okay, well, that's good to know. See, that's why you interview, you get that insight, because you would think that it was like a sample.
Right.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. So people, who are listening in and tuning in, remember you can send your Twitter message, you can post on Facebook, or you can call us at 202-889-9797. So you can get a chance to ask Wayna questions in between my questions, though. So let's talk about, again, the transition in your music with this new album, and explain what the album's title means, too.
Sure. So the Expats was named after the band and production team who I made the album with, a group of international musicians I met in Toronto. And an expat is by definition a person who is living and working abroad from the country of their birth or their cultural origin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So basically an immigrant, essentially, or somebody who's on an assignment overseas and has a job, who's in a foreign sort of culture.
Okay,
And that was a testament to, really to me, growing up as an Ethiopian immigrant at a time when there weren't a lot of Ethiopian immigrants or even African immigrants really in DC, and then also to the varied background of the musicians who I was collaborating with. They were from everywhere, from India to Uganda, Japan, Jamaica, Eritrea, Israel. They were from all over, Germany.
Wow. Okay.
So we really came together with this world outlook. But we had common interests and common tastes. So we all love Bob Marley, we all love The Police, we all love Radiohead, we all love Sade, and these things came out in the music. So that was the concept behind the Expats.
Well, I mean, that in itself just that type of collaboration, and we're going to talk about that too, because one of my guests said a while ago when we were doing Black Music Month, she was like, Karen, I really want to know how the music industry continues to collaborate. She said they collaborate better than any industry. Music does. And when I thought about it, I was like, that's true, because in the music industry, you set out to do collaborations, whether, it's the engineer, it's the writer, it's another musician, you set out, to do that. So, I don't know that it's always conscious. It's just something that's part of being in the industry.
Really amazing.
I
never thought about that, but that's very
true.
Yeah,
and I think when she brought it to my attention, because I had interviewed Kool and the Gang back in June, and she was like, that's a question I want to know, is how did they do it so effortlessly, with that. So how key is that in you designing and creating an album, especially this album, because you did a lot of collaboration?
Yes, and that the credits, just making the credits for this album took me like a month. There's so many people to cite. But I think that's so interesting, because I think the making of music is itself a spiritual process.
Yes.
And it's very, music is the all equal, talent is the all equalizer, right? So people can be at different levels of their career and have different accolades or be unknown. But when somebody has an ability or a talent at something, anybody with any kind of ability recognizes it, and you just have to respect that, that piece of God in them, or that spirit that's moving through them is just, you just have to respect it, regardless of where they are in their career, if they're brand spanking new or, a seasoned veteran. So I think that's the thing about that probably makes collaborations easier, is that when people come together in a room, they can immediately recognize, because we're all sort of attuned to the same creative source.
And
you can immediately sense, it moving in another person, and then you just want for that spirit to sort of take over. So you just, there's a willingness, there's a vulnerability, because we all recognize that it's coming from somewhere else, I think. So we just all sort of go with the flow. I mean, the best music is when you are letting go and letting something move through you. So there's already a sense of cooperation in every great musician, I think. So,
that's a wonderful answer. You summed it up. Because it's true. I mean, music gives time frames for people. Is a part of it has a nostalgia to it, and you know, and again, it has this a strong force of energy, you know, that brings people together, and absolutely the spirituality of it, you know, because when you meet great or good musicians, you just want to do something with them.
Yeah, you feel like you know them. You have this intimate connection with them. And it's interesting when I work with somebody I've never met before. I found it so interesting how we could have a very sort of not awkward but just like formal introductory conversation, and then when it's time to work, it's like all that stuff just goes out the window, and you're close. And then afterward, you're close. So it is a very bonding kind of experience.
Okay, all right. So what was your design strategy or your process you used to unveil the new body of work?
Such a smart question, and I don't really know if I have one per se. I mean, I think what I wanted to do was just sort of introduce my story with the album so that people would understand, you know, where these different international sounds come from and why they are in me and why I wanted to incorporate them in my music. So really I started by having a listening party where I invited close friends and people who have been with me throughout the start of my journey, so that I could just sort of share with them why I made the creative choices I did. And that was the sell, really, because just introducing the new sound like out of the blue, I think would have surprised some people.
I see.
But, you know, letting them know where it came from, I think got those people on board, and then those people in turn told their friends and circles about, you know, the new direction, and it kind of eased people into it. So that was as, you know, as strategic as I got, but I'm sure there are better ways to have done it.
But you know, a lot of times, I mean, I think as artists, you know, when we use the terms of design thinkers and visionaries, a lot of times you just do the work, so you don't necessarily think of it in that particular way. And then when the album's done, then you sit down with marketing or PR, and that's how we're going to get it out, you know. But it's just a different process that you all go through, but it is the process, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is the process as well. So what do you want the consumer to experience with this album?
And that's a beautiful question, and that's the same thing that I want people to feel when they come to see my show. And it was really the spirit behind this album was a kind of a liberation within me and a decision within me to embrace all of who I am and to be less concerned with how other people are experiencing me and how I'm fitting into the boxes that are prescribed. So this was me saying, look, I am a soul artist, but I'm from Africa, and I'm also, you know, passionate about women's issues, but I also grew up in predominantly white schools and listened to the Police and U2 until I was 14. So these are parts of who I am, and I don't have to minimize or diminish any part of who I am, you know, to make music or to be in the world, and there's a freedom that comes with that.
Absolutely.
And I want to feel that for myself, and I want people to feel that when they come to see the show, and when they take the album home as a souvenir of that experience. I want them to feel a little more free to be all of who they are in the world.
Okay. Well, you know, that's one reason we have strongly connected is because of the women.
Yes.
I know when we had lunch and sat down, I think you wanted to put your fist up. That's how passionate I know that you are about women's causes and issues and leadership, you know, as well. So, you know, I think that you always get to a point where it's kind of like that, I don't care. You know, what you think,
nice?
You know, it is.
One of the perks of growing older.
It's
like, I don't care anymore.
Yeah, I don't care anymore. I'm going to do what is in my heart to do. So kudos on that. Congratulations on that. So talk about the mix of cultures. I mean, you know, talked about that some, but how important that was for you to mix these cultures into your sound.
Yeah. Well, it was, you know, it was what's in me already. And when I look back on my childhood, you know, my mom's an Ethiopian, and we were raised in this part of Rockville called Heritage Park. And it's this like small townhome community, and people were from all over. Mexicans, Vietnamese, Irish, Pakistani. These were my neighbors and best friends and the people that I kind of identified myself with. My identity was not even necessarily immediately as an Ethiopian American, because there were not a lot of Ethiopians.
Okay.
My identity was more as an immigrant, and how I'm different, from my environment as a black immigrant, and how do I, sort of figure myself out in this, new world. And so that was the place where I found refuge, where I felt understood.
Okay.
And so that's what I searched for in the music. When I looked for the sounds that I gravitated to, like there's elements of Afrobeat in the record, and a lot of my friends in college were Nigerian. These were the sounds that they introduced me to. My college roommate was Nigerian. There's a lot of reggae and dub in the album. My husband is Trinidadian, and a lot of my friends in college I met through the Caribbean Association. That that's where I first heard dub music and really got into Bob Marley and Buju Banton and all the guys that we love now. So it was just a matter of looking at my childhood and saying what sounds are a reflection of the people and cultures that influenced me as a person, because I really wanted this album to be like me, to be a reflection of who I am. Because the best piece of advice I got after Higher Ground was from this record exec who listened to the album, and he said, I hear Erykah Badu, I hear Jill Scott, I hear Lauryn Hill. He said, who's Wayna? And I just froze, because he was right. He was really right. I was doing my version of other people's work, and I said, you know what? You're right. And there's a whole piece of me that's not in this. So I had to really look at myself and say, who am I? And that led me to start from the very beginning. Where did my mindset get formed? And then as an extension of that, how did my musical taste become formed?
Right.
And all of that was through my experiences of being in this immigrant community and going off to college and being exposed to gospel, which just completely turned my life upside down. And then after that, soul, and then and now going full circle and incorporating all of the sounds that are beautiful to me. So
it really isn't a new sound; it's your sound.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's my sound, because I feel like there's a whole community of people out there who are like me, who are just now starting to, there's a definition for us. Like I did I sat down with a group called Afropolitan, and it's this new term now. I think it's even in the dictionary, but it means like African immigrants who have made homes in urban communities and have now infused the cultures of those major cities with their indigenous cultures, and now there's this, they have this new culture of hip Africans. And sites like OK Africa, for example, who I just did a guide to DC from the Ethiopian perspective on. I mean, this is an offshoot of OK Player, which is the Roots website where we know that to be a source of hip hop and soul, but they have an offshoot of their site called OK Africa, which is now Africans who are doing their version of hip hop and soul, which is, and there's tons of them.
Absolutely. Yeah, there has to be. So it are you saying it's a genre of music, you think?
I think it is, but I think more importantly, it's the notion of the genre is like less important, because we are all a combination of genres. I mean, look at soul. Soul is a combination of gospel and R&B. So what does that really mean? I mean, I don't know what it means. I think we're constantly redefining sounds that reflect who we are and where we're going and what new things we're creating. So, I mean, you could say that, but I think, after a few years, in 25 years, there'll be a new, influx of, look at how punk is influencing soul now. It's
absolutely. Yeah. But I think, that's that, when we use the word innovation, which is sometimes just used to death or misused, that's what that is. When you have innovation in music, there's a span. It could be 10, 15 years before you see this change again, and a lot of times the change that occurs is very, I won't even say different. It's just not in line with what people know. You know, it just breaks away from that completely and creates something new. You know, so it doesn't. And you may hear bits and pieces of history, but it creates this new platform. You know, and that's what that's the purpose of what innovation does. It sparks that. So people say, okay, that's not me, but I do have a little bit of that, and now I'm gonna, create this new way. So I'm looking forward to it because, we always want innovation.
Yeah, I think so.
We always want innovation without erasing any history, but we want innovation, because you have to have some reference. You have to have something to research, and then that's what you pull bits and you go on.
Right. Right.
So that term again, you said it was called Afro what now?
Afropolitan.
Afropolitan. Okay. Okay, so we have to look that up. So is soul music at a crossroads or evolution in entertainment? I asked this back in June.
So. Yeah, I definitely think so. I think, I think soul artists, as a rule, we want to be successful. So I think we saw, like, when the genre first became, very popular and something that the industry recognized as being a revenue maker, people, sort of gravitated toward making the kinds of sounds that they thought would get support from the industry. And then, it just sort of stagnated because there wasn't a creative push behind it. But I think definitely, like I've noticed in the past 2-3 years with artists like Georgia Ann Muldrow and just really like bold Jay Davy, and there's just a new push for something different and creative and honest to be infused with this sound.
Okay.
And I think it's coming from different angles now that people are incorporating their element into what's sort of been there for the past 10 or 15 years. So I think artists like that are incorporating rock and punk, and then artists like me and Neka and Kanan who are incorporating African sounds and reggae sounds. I think these different facets of the community are going to start, or have been, incorporating new things into the model that we all love and making it theirs. And pushing it forward, because it really does have to change.
It does. It
can't stay the same. Yeah.
And I think, I told someone before, I was like, we need revolution, but we need evolution. Right. We need some stuff started from scratch and built up again. So, and I would like to say that I think, soul has been at a crossroads, but I do see it started to evolve because either, people like yourself going back in and figuring out and saying, this is the sound that I do want to present. This is where I am now, and this is going to be the change, or just new artists coming on the scene and coming in with a new sound, that again you have to hold firm to, you have to be proud of, you have to stay behind, because again, like you said, people don't embrace change. So it's like, what is this? This is not what we used to, this is the box we do want you to fit in, and we always say, if you are a visionary, there is no box. So, all for you to even to look at, to think about, there is no box. So
this is why, if I can just interject, this is why people like you are so important to this, and We Act Radio are so important to this, because those guardians of the industry, of the institutions that support music commercially, are not going to go out on a limb for a new sound. So it really has to come from the people, and you guys being serving it to them first without any inhibition and letting them choose what they like is the best formula for real change, because once the people love it, then the business will get behind it. I mean, that's what happened in the beginning to make this the quote unquote neo soul movement evolve. So it can happen again, but it has to start with the people.
It does, absolutely. Because I remember the days when I was with BET, and you had the little lounges in Philly, you had them in New York, you had them in Chicago, and that's where the Jill Scotts were sitting at, and that's where Erykah Badu was sitting at, and they didn't have deals, but that's who the people were following them and built them up, and some of them are still with them, but that's where they were, in the small places, serving the people, just wanted people to hear them.
Right.
You know, and I think that has to be the purpose, is to get your music out, you know, to the people that you know are going to enjoy it, embrace it, and then it'll lift up. It'll go from there.
Yeah.
You know, it'll go from there. So how big has social media been for you coming back or maintaining?
Been great. Yeah, no, especially just recently, I have really begun to, I was just thinking about this morning. It's funny, I was saying how much easier my life is now because of social media and because of the iPhone, because I remember when I first started, you know, it wasn't like that. I mean, in 2000, what was it, 4 that my first record came out, it was not, you know, you had your email lists, and that was about it.
That was about it. You had to beat the pavement.
Yeah. And even to get a CD to somebody, you know, you had to mail it, and it was just, you know, a hassle. And now there's, first iTunes, now everyone just has digital access, you know, no, you don't need you don't need to necessarily be in retail, because everybody has access to your music. And more importantly, you know, people are already online waiting and looking for something to intrigue them. Yes. And so it's been wonderful now for me to kind of, I'm just now getting into the whole culture of it, really. Because I was very, it wasn't my thing, really, for a long time. I was like, I just want to sing, you know, like, I really don't want to tweet and all that stuff. But I figured, I found the joy in really interacting with the people who are consuming the music and hearing their direct feedback and sharing things with them outside of music that are, you know, obviously the music is just like the final byproduct of all the soul searching I've done. So in a way, like, you know, my relationship with the consumer is not just about the music, it's about all the things that inspired the making of that music. So it's nice to talk to them about, you know, what their favorite Ethiopian restaurant is. Like the feature I just did on OK Africa, there was a, you know, people were, I gave my choices for my favorite Ethiopian restaurant, and people were saying, well, I like this one. I'm like, oh, I have to try that, you know, and I'm enjoying that interaction. So it's great. It's wonderful to see the things that get people inspired, because that's what we want to do ultimately, is inspire people.
And it gives you, you know, it's like that whole passing of information that gets passed really quickly now, you know. So someone doesn't have to necessarily wait to go to your show to go back and talk about you. You know, they may see you do an interview or hear you do an interview or hear the sound and then they pass it on. Or like we said, you may trend, you know, within social media, and then they pick you up from that and didn't even know you were there. So, you know, I think for music it has been truly, you know, beneficial, you know, as long as people definitely know how to keep their comments within.
Which is
I'm saying something so crazy out their mouth. Oh my gosh.
The internet does kind of give a nice little mask sometimes. So people sometimes say, you know, they feel emboldened more than they would in a regular conversation.
Yeah, that is the mask of it all. So did you, with your brand, do you have a business model? Because you're an entrepreneur in addition to an artist. Did you have some model that you followed, or, you know, did you revamp the one that you had from the past? How are you going about that?
Yeah, I definitely have. Actually, my template was actually Obama's campaign. I just love the community sort of grassroots approach that he took to it. And really, like, you know, I realized recently how important it is for me to solidify my following here in the district. Like before, you know, I had done that a little bit before, but obviously there were so many people that I hadn't reached still. And here I was, you know, flying to all these different markets and trying to lay groundwork with these different areas. And then I realized, well, you know, and advice given to me too from a great former manager of J. Davy, you know, his suggestion was, you know, when you're big in your city, in your market, then you have so much, your reach is just, you know, is that much firmer, and then it makes it so much easier to move into other markets once you've really solidified yourself here. So that's my new approach, is really getting to know my backyard. And there are so many people here who I think will get this music for so many different reasons. First of all, this is the best market for soul music in the country. Secondly, it's probably one of the most international. I mean, with the embassy community, I mean, it's a very international. There are a lot of immigrants that are drawn here. And then thirdly, this is the largest Ethiopian population outside of outside of Ethiopia.
Yes.
So it makes sense for me to really get my roots, well established here. And even though I've, been doing it for a while, there's still so many more people to reach. So I'm excited to know that I can, I don't have to get on a plane to make a new friend or a new supporter. I mean, they're right here. So. I'm excited about that. Plus, DC, they're great music consumers. Like they know good music here, And I've enjoyed coming up as an artist here because the audiences here, they just do not play. I mean, if you're not doing something special,
DC doesn't. DC does not play. They will boo someone in 2 flat seconds, and they could be popular.
Yes.
They do not care. It's like, are you not giving us your best? Okay, we will boo you.
Right. I love it, which is great. And I've seen, as being based here, I've done a number of shows opening up for a national act or supported friends who are my peers here in the music scene, opening up for other acts. And we know the community, so we know they're expecting something special. And, we give them a good show, and then the national act will come on and kind of just be like, okay, I'm just going to do my little, play the track, and then just do their thing, and people are like,
you're not going to do that. You're not going to do that. So we're going to go to break, but as we go out of break, we're going to play another one of your singles, and then we'll be back. You're listening to Behind the Mind Radio Show.
This is Jason Orr from Funk Jazz Cafe Arts and Music Festival and Soul of Earth the Group. You're listening to Behind the Mind. And if you want to know more about us, check us out at funkjazzcafe.com, FUNKJAZZKAFE, not a C.com.
This is the Working Virginia Update. I'm Jesse Russell. One of the next battlegrounds for marriage equality is in Virginia, where 2 federal lawsuits are advancing in the legal process this week. From Richmond, Catherine Comp reports.
The 2 suits seek to invalidate the state's ban on same-sex marriage and civil unions, and its refusal to recognize legal marriages from other states. Reducing this inequality, says Nancy Wohlforth, founder of the AFL-CIO's Pride at Work initiative, will help working families across the state.
People who are able to get benefits for their entire family improves their life immensely, immediately, because they can cover their spouse and their children under a state employee's health plan.
Same-sex couples in Virginia are denied more than 1,000 other rights and benefits, including those concerning tax breaks, adoption, and perks given to military spouses.
This update made possible by the Office of Professional Employees International Union, ensuring fair treatment, fair wages, and benefits for thousands of working Virginians. Online at opeiu.org. WEAC.org.
Friends, David Schuster here, and all of us at WEAC Radio are so proud of our neighbors here in Southeast D.C., especially one of our partners, the Ark. The Ark is at 1901 Mississippi Avenue Southeast. It's the home to some of Washington's best, including the Washington Ballet, the Levine School of Music, Boys and Girls Club, and the Children's Health Project. All provide a number of programs and services within the very same facility. The Ark is also home to the Ark Theater, the only theater east of the river, which hosts a variety of dance, music, and theatrical shows each year. Almost everything you want is at the Ark, so stop by and see them. The Ark, 1901 Mississippi Avenue in Southeast. For more information, visit the Ark's website, www.thearkdc.org, or call 202-889-5901. The Ark, part of Southeast DC.
This is Kimon Freeman, host of Speak Easy and co-founder of WEAC Radio. Suicide is a very serious problem in today's challenging world, whether with our troops abroad or with everyday citizens within our own society. Before you take your life into your own hands, tie a knot at the end of your rope and call the suicide hotline toll-free at 1-855-320-LIFE. That's 1-855-320-LIFE. It may just be the most important call you ever make. You talk, we listen, and together we survive.
It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going now. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going now.
Good God! I got to ask you, what we need? Soul food. Henry soul food. No, we need it. Soul food. Henry soul food. No, I like it. Soul food. Henry soul food. No, we need it. Soul food. Henry soul food.
Home of the sweet potato pie. Even the keenest taste buds will tell you the best food on the planet. Large enough to serve you and small enough to know you. So get the Henry's at 5431 Indian Head Highway, Oxon Hill, Maryland, or give us a call at 301-749-6856.
Soul food. Henry soul food. What we need? Soul food.
WEAC Radio, powered by Ethical Electric. Do something. Do something.
I'm Philippa Hughes with the Pink Line Project and Supernova Performance Art Festival, and I listen to Behind the Mind radio show every week.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm listening to Behind the Mind radio show. This is another single from Wayna. What's the name of this one? This is called Yo-Yo. Yo-Yo. Okay. These is, 3 songs so far. My thing has always been, if at least 3 songs on the album are good, they're good. It has always been. Since I was young. You can get 3 out of there. If you can get a whole bunch more, wonderful. But so far, we have some great singles coming off this album.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, tell me, what was your first memory of discovering you were creative?
I had an experience when I was like 7 where I got locked in the elevator of my aunt's apartment complex. And I was stuck in this tiny elevator, tiny elevator, and I couldn't do anything. I just had to sit and wait for people to come. So the way I occupied myself was I just started singing to myself, and then after I got bored, I started making up little songs to keep myself, from feeling scared or bored. And I just remembered when they finally got me, I was in there for like at least 3 hours. And I was content.
You just sang yourself and made yourself content.
I was fine, yeah.
3 hours is a long time in the elevator.
It is for a 7-year-old too. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I was okay because I made my own little world in there. So it was okay.
Oh, cool. That's a great story. So, do you think this is your biggest artistic risk or no? What's your biggest one if this isn't the biggest artistic risk?
I think this is.
Okay.
I think this is because I had established a certain reputation up until now. So, I mean, you could say that just jumping out in the beginning and doing English music when most of my Ethiopian peers were doing Amharic, that was a bit of a risk. But that was just who I was anyway, so it wasn't really that different of a decision. But since I had 2 albums out, had some success, had a Grammy nod, and it just sort of felt like people knew me to be a certain kind of way, and to when the expectations were the highest, switch gears is probably the biggest risk that I've taken. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, it's good that you're taking the risk when you feel comfortable in the fact of totally who you are.
Yeah,
I think that's why. I guess it's when you take the biggest risk, huh?
Yes, and if you want the biggest reward, you have to take the biggest risk.
You do. You absolutely do. So do you go certain places to gather your inspiration to write your lyrics?
Well, it's funny. I used to just go to a coffee shop or just a place where I felt there was other creative people and just put my headphones on and write. I used to go to busboys a lot and just listen to the instrumental and just write on my computer. Or I would go to I would drive a lot actually, because there's something about just driving that made me feel like I would stop thinking, So I would put the instrumental in my car and just drive around.
Okay. Oh, cool. So the car and busboys at a cafe. Oh, my goodness. So, we have these questions that we ask everyone who comes on our show, our Behind the Mind questions. And they always give us a lot of insight into people as well. So I'm going to ask you these now because we do want to, play something else too. So if you could have lunch with anyone living or dead, who would it be? And you can choose living and you can choose dead.
I can do both?
You can do both.
Okay. So let's say living, I would choose Michelle Obama.
Okay.
And I think it's because she's just, there's something so magnetic about her that as soon as I see her, I just want to stand up straight.
That's a great point.
Yeah, she's just amazing. She's just amazing. And I love how even though she's this really dynamic woman in her own right, she has made supporting her family her priority. But she does it with such, still using all of her brains and beauty and her heart and everything. You really feel that, and I think she's a wonderful model for being a brilliant woman who is primarily a supportive wife and mother. And I think that's an interesting combination.
Yeah, it is, especially in such a high power position.
Dead though, I would pick my dad, who I lost when I was 13.
Okay.
And I didn't really grow up with him, but he was, of course, like a looming figure in my mind. And I think, when I became a young adult, I started to feel like he was just one of my guardian angels, sort of watching over everything I was doing. And I have this imagined relationship with him. Okay. So I if I could actually sit down and just find out more about him and then what he thinks of me too, I think that would be really awesome.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. So as a child, what was your favorite toy?
My favorite toy, I used to. It's funny. We didn't have a lot of money growing up, and I loved music, but I always felt I felt guilty asking my mom to buy me stuff that in my mind I thought was expensive. So I had this. My cousin had an old guitar that he had outgrown and given to me. And I played that thing until all the strings popped off. I took a little class and really enjoyed it. But then when the strings popped off, I thought, okay, I can't ask her for strings because I think it's going to cost too much money. So I figured out this weird concoction of how to create. I had one of those school boxes and I put rubber bands in it and I just tried to make my own little guitar. And I just remember, sitting up late and she would be watching Dallas and falling asleep and watching Dallas, and I was sitting with my makeshift guitar with my little school box, my rubber bands, and I just pretended with that thing this is my guitar and I'm I'm a singer songwriter, blah blah. So
how old were you?
I think I was about 10.
Okay, okay. So that question always does a 360. It always comes back to that choosing of that toy as to where you are, you know, or the career path that you chose. And most people, it sets them.
What was your favorite toy, Karen?
Oh my goodness, I was a big. And lately, my guest has been asking me the questions. I didn't want to ask me last week. I had a lot of toys, but I was a big gaming person. And my sisters and I would make a lot of our games up.
Oh, that's nice.
So, you know, it leads back to me as far as me designing a lot. I like to design a lot. And then, I was a big gaming person, Atari. And I was a big television watcher. So I knew I was going to be in entertainment.
I see.
I knew. I knew
studying them.
very young that I was going to be in entertainment. I was like, there's no other path that I could see myself going. I did the alternate routes that my parents thought they wanted me to do. And I know my mother listens to every show, so she hears me and she laughs because she calls me later. So, but I always knew entertainment was my thing.
Right.
I always knew. So it was always involved. And I told people I didn't watch cartoons. I watched the soap operas. So, because I was like, that's not, that's not it done enough. So what's the motto that you live by?
The motto that I live by? I think it would probably be to give first, just to give everything that I have. I feel like every time I pour everything I have into something, I'm rewarded with somebody else giving me back what I need when I need it. So I think that's probably the best philosophy, just to even when it doesn't seem strategic, In fact, I learned this very powerful lesson a few years back when I was I went to California for the Grammys, long before I had gotten recognized, and it was the year before, and I paid for myself to go, and I was sitting in the nosebleed section, and I had a colleague of mine who was probably I won't say who it was, but it was a more established musician. And I could feel in the interaction that her perception was just that. In terms of our relationship, it was me benefiting from the relationship, right?
I see.
Which I felt, and I just was like, okay, whatever. But anyway, that I felt that. But then the very next year, I got recognized, and the year after that, I was sitting on the committee that listens to records that are being nominated, or that are up for consideration to be nominated, to vote on who would be nominated. And this artist's work came up. And I thought so much about that experience, because I said, look, you can be around somebody who you think can never be in a position to help you.
Absolutely.
And you just treat them that way.
Right, absolutely.
And then the next month or the next year or in 2 years, they could be somebody who could make a big difference in your life.
Absolutely.
So you don't treat people according to, who you think they are, what you think you can give them. You just give, or what you think they can give you. You just give everything you have to everybody, and then the universe will give back to you. So I think that's one of the ways that I saw that come to fruition.
It's an excellent point, though, because people do forget. They forget, and as you climb that ladder, you have to remember that you're supposed to reach back and pull up. That's what. We were having a conversation about being a mentor, and one person said, I don't think people understand what it means to be a mentor anymore. And she said, when you're mentored, you're to mentor someone else. So it's not just you being mentored and you take all that and you run off, but you have to also be mentoring someone else. So the same information you're gathering, you're putting it back in, at the same time. And people forget to do that. They forget to do that. So we're going to... you want to close the show?
Sure.
So we also get a drop from you at the same time?
Sure.
And then we're going to also play one of the songs back again so people can get a real chance to hear. But right now they're picking up the album where, though, before we close?
You can get the album on iTunes, on Amazon, and you can reach me on Facebook, Wayna Music, Wayna Music, or on Twitter, Wayna Music, Wayna Music, or on Instagram, Wayna Music, Wayna Music. And I'm always there, so you can, send me a message and let me know what you enjoyed about the album or the show or whatever, and I'll definitely hit you back. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. So you're listening to Behind the Mind radio show, and Wayna's going to close the show for us. Come on, you got to write faster than
I think I can remember.
Yes, I did call you out.
Go ahead. Okay. This is Wayna, and you are listening to Behind the Mind radio show with the beautiful Karen Baker.
On We Act Radio.
On We Act Radio. Can you edit that?
Oh, yeah. Also, yeah, we'll edit that.
Okay.
But also, you all remember that this is the 50th anniversary for the assassination of JFK. So they have a lot of things going on across the nation, but especially here in Washington, D.C. So you want to do your drop again?
Sure. This is Wayna, and you are listening to Behind the Mind radio show with the beautiful Karen Baker on We Act Radio.